Hello YouTube and welcome to my very own video on the Imperials versus Stormcloaks matter. Since I expect this to be a very long video, I will rush really quickly through the, well, rather large intro. So first, to understand some points made in the video you will need to have seen my other videos on the Second Great War and on the normal Great War. It is not necessary, but I recommend you watching it before starting on this. The links will have appeared by now in the eye icons on top of the screen. Second, you will be hearing my opinion in the video. Not facts, my opinion. So that means that disagreeing is allowed, but please keep it nice, because it's my opinion and I tell in no way what you need to believe. Third, in this video I will point out my problems with each faction and the reason I like both factions. I will tell you my opinion near the end of the video, so you can all understand the reason behind my choice, since a lot of people will definitely disagree with me. And then, fourth and last point, this video is completely unscripted. Only the intro and the outro are scripted. I have prepared some talking points so I know what way my discussion is going, but other than that I just casually talk about the conflict and why I choose each side. And sorry, but I remembered I still have a fifth point. Some of my points I have borrowed from another YouTuber. I do not remember who it is, but I saw his video a long time ago back in the day, and some of the points just since then, well, stuck in my head. If anyone recognizes the points that are literally from someone else, please comment it so I can credit him for it in the comments. That said, let's finally kick off. Well, let's start with the problems I have with the Imperials. To understand my problem that I have with them, you have to look at what they have done in, well, during the Great War and after it. Because in my opinion, the Empire itself has failed at, well, the most fundamental duty of any government: protecting its citizens from foreign hostile powers, like the Thalmor. For example, right now the Thalmor are just allowed to march into Skyrim and just arrest people, like the Justicars do. Just arresting people, and I just think that it is important for any government to make sure that that does not happen. And well, it's just a duty of any government to make sure that another power cannot just influence their goings on. And another rather large problem I have with the Empire is just their lack of care, I guess, for the other provinces. Because, well, I understand why the Empire puts Cyrodiil above all, but I just don't like the idea that the Empire can just say, well, as they have said in the Great War, Cyrodiil is more important, so we take troops out of High Rock, Hammerfell, and just, well, you come to protect my land now instead of I protect your land, just because I am the Emperor and I think that protecting my land is more important than protecting Hammerfell's land. And I think that's kind of unfair, and I think that that is also one of the main problems that the Stormcloaks necessarily rebel against. Another problem I have with the Empire is that whenever we are talking about the Empire, you think of something else. I don't know if you follow me, but if you go to the Stormcloaks, for example, you really find people that seem to care about Skyrim and they want to fight for Skyrim, and well, that's all they talk about. Skyrim, yes, but when you go to the Empire, it feels like something separate, something else, something higher. That, and I don't know, that's just, I can imagine that can make people feel uncomfortable, I guess, as you, whenever you side with the Imperials, you maybe don't really know what you're fighting for, if you understand what I mean. And yeah, that's also one of the bigger problems I have with the Imperials. I know that some of you might disagree with that, and I completely understand. I also know that there is another side to this, but that's one of the main problems that I have with the Empire. And now let's go to the problems I have with the Stormcloaks. Well, to say at first, let's just get Torek out of the way, because the assassination or killing of High King Torek by Ulfric is just really one of the bigger problems I have with the Stormcloaks, because as you can hear in Solitude from the Court Wizard, Torek had a lot of respect for Ulfric, and it is stated in the game by the Court Wizard of Solitude that if Ulfric would have asked Torrik to leave the Empire, Torrik would have done it. That's one of the bigger things that I disagree with in the Stormcloaks, because Ulfric just, well, plain out killed Torrik to get to make himself High King. And I get that he would want to be High King, but if he can achieve his goals by just talking and have less bloodshed, why then still kill the king and start the whole civil war? If you can also have a united Skyrim under the High King rebel against the Empire. And that's, I think, also leads to my point of that the Stormcloaks have like a lack of vision for the future. Because, okay, let's say the Stormcloaks do it and Skyrim becomes independent. Does Ulfric really think they can hold back the Thalmor by themselves? Because we know that if Ulfric would to secede from the Empire, the Thalmor would attack him. I mean, there's really no question in that. And I personally think no. And for that, to understand that, you must have watched my Second Great War video. And in that I tell that, well, currently in Skyrim there's a real weakened Imperial Legion because all the stronger troops are at the border of Cyrodiil. Right now in Skyrim there are just some locally picked farmers to be Imperial soldiers. And I think that if even a large-scale Imperial army that's well trained can't hold back the Thalmor, why should Ulfric be able to? I mean, I understand that a lot of his soldiers are Great War veterans, but that makes them also older and weaker, because Great War veterans are generally old. And I think that I just don't see it happen that Ulfric will be able to keep out the Thalmor by his own, like Hammerfell did. Because Hammerfell had a lot of Imperial soldiers that just stayed behind, that were, well, relieved of their duties by the commander when they left Hammerfell. And they had like the Alakir, I suppose, and also the normal army. And Ulfric will only have the normal army. And I just highly doubt that he will be able to kill off the Thalmor on his own. And yeah, I mean, and if you think he might get an alliance, I don't really think so, because Hammerfell, as far as I know, I could be wrong, really. If someone has some kind of source for me that completely counters my point, then please comment it. But as far as I know, Hammerfell is also still a little scared of the Thalmor, and also does not want to have another invasion on them. So if they were to support Ulfric, well, it won't happen, because then the Thalmor would also attack Hammerfell and become hostile to them again. Morrowind certainly won't help them, because we know that between Nords and Dark Elves things aren't that good. And also Argonia or Blackmarsh also won't help them, because, well, for obvious reasons. And actually the only friend that Skyrim has is the Empire, not High Rock or Cyrodiil. I mean, High Rock and Cyrodiil really don't care about Skyrim. The Empire as an entity, as a whole, cares about Skyrim, and not the separate provinces. And I just think that it will not really be possible for Ulfric to keep out the Thalmor. Yeah, I mean, it could also be that he would be able to defeat them, and that would be really great. I mean, if Ulfric were to be able to push out the Thalmor on his own, then I think that would be favorable. But for Ulfric himself, I don't think it is really... He has no really future plans on how to keep out the Thalmor, and that's one of my biggest issues with the Stormcloaks. So, yeah. I think I've covered everything that I think is wrong with the Stormcloaks, and also with the Empire. I think both are evenly matched, because it really isn't an easy choice for me, I must say, because I have a lot of problems with both of the factions, and I generally like both factions to a certain degree, so yeah. But let's continue with the Imperials. The pros of the Imperials. To start with, a lot of people usually say that the Stormcloaks have a really great hate of the Thalmor, and that isn't really apparent in the Imperials. But I personally think that the Imperials hate the Stormcloaks as much. Hate the Stormcloaks, hate the Thalmor as much as the Stormcloaks do, because the Thalmor actually invaded Cyrodiil, and I think that the Empire itself hates the Thalmor more than Ulfric would hate them. And you might think that that is a weak point for the Empire, but that's one of the things I like about the Empire, because look, the Stormcloaks want Talos worship back, and it's one of the things I also dislike about the Empire is that it is them outlawing it, but I see why they did it, so I don't really think that I'm allowed to complain about that. And I think that if you look very closely, then you see that some pro-Imperial Jarls and also some Imperial soldiers like Legadricke still worship Talos, but just in secret, so they can keep the peace with the Thalmor and not spark another war, because there is not really that much information given on whether the Empire is ready for a second Great War. But if you've looked at my video, I personally think they are, but it's really, yeah, there's not that much information on it. And I think that it is a smart tactic to just keep doing it in secret, because yeah, we can see that the Empire itself does not really care about if you worship Talos or not. It's the Thalmor that arrests the people that worship Talos. And so I think that that's one of the things I like about the Empire, because it's clear that they just do it because they want to prolong the peace with the Thalmor and not yet fight. And it might be, some people might disagree with me and might think that's one of the things I should dislike about them, but it's one of the choices I understand they made, and one of the things well, you could say, like about the Empire. And also something I like about the Empire is the choice that they made to make the White Gold conquer that. And I know that a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but a lot of people generally think that the Empire could have still won the First Great War. And if you watched my first video on the Great War, then you might know that that's not entirely true. Or, well, we don't know, but I think it's very unlikely the Empire would have won the war if they were to continue. And the Empire made the decision to make peace and thereby save a lot of people and maybe fight another time. And that's one of the choices I respect in them, because if they had continued, they might have won. The Emperor knew this. He knew that he might have won, but he also knew that probably a lot more Imperial soldiers and citizens would have died than Thalmor soldiers. So I don't know if the situation as it exists in Skyrim, in the international politics between the Thalmor and the Empire, is the way the Emperor had wanted it to be. Or maybe he wanted to fight earlier, but it's just not ready. And I don't really, it's a little vague on that area. But I think personally that the Emperor made the smart choice to make peace, because a lot more people would have died than elves, and maybe they would have won, but even then, a lot more people than elves, a lot more humans than elves would have died. And that's one of the things I, well, really respect in the Empire. And now let's go to the Stormcloak pros. I personally like the Stormcloaks for the fact that they want Skyrim independence, and that with that they would be able to deny the Thalmor, so Nords can also rule Skyrim. And they also fight for freedom. I mean, who doesn't like a fight for freedom? It's also a fight for freedom of religion, since they cannot worship Talos, their greatest god. And I really can't blame the people that join the Stormcloaks, or myself when I've joined the Stormcloaks, because I've joined both of the factions a lot of the times. And I must say that the ultimate choice on who I support is hard, but I can really understand the people that want to join the Stormcloaks, because, well, when you're in Skyrim, I mean, you start to, certainly if you like the game, you start to, well, care for Skyrim. You want to do what's best for Skyrim. And as I said earlier with the Empire, you sometimes think with the Empire that it is a separate entity and not people that care about Skyrim. Well, in the Stormcloaks, you find people that really care about Skyrim and want to fight for it. And therefore I think that, yeah, that's what I like in the Stormcloaks, that they really want to fight for Skyrim and that they really wish to do the best for Skyrim, even if it might not be the best in everyone's eyes, it's the best in their eyes. And yeah, that is, I think, the biggest pro I have with the Stormcloaks, that with them you really feel like you're doing it for Skyrim instead of for Cyrodiil and for the might of the Empire. And that's why I really can't blame anyone that joins it. Even if I am on the Imperial side, I always understand the Stormcloaks to a certain extent, if you know what I mean. And I think that the point everyone makes with racism, that the Stormcloaks are racist against the Dunmer, I don't think, well, it doesn't have to be racism, and this is one of the points I literally borrowed from that video from the other one. So please, if anyone knows from whose video it is, make it so that I can credit him. His and also my definition of racism is, I am better than you just because I am me. And that makes me superior to you. Just because you look different or think different, or that's what racism is, in my eyes. People could disagree, and I think that what the Dunmer and the Nords have, that is something entirely different, because they have been at war with each other for, well, centuries. The Dunmer and the Nords have both screwed each other over so many times in the history that I think that it's logical that they just have a general dislike for each other. And I don't think that really is racism, because they don't really necessarily have anything against individual Dark Elves. They just dislike the race. Because if you become a Dark Elf in Skyrim and you join the Stormcloaks, Ulfric Stormcloak himself says, I don't really remember what he said, but he said, well, if Skyrim is your home, you're a true son of Skyrim and you're welcome with the Stormcloaks. That's abbreviated what he says. So I don't think it is really racism, I just think it is the hate for the general races against each other, for the things that they have done to each other over the centuries, and not generally that because I am me, I am better than you, if you understand what I mean. Not because I have, for example, let's say, purple hair, I am better than you. I don't really have purple hair, but you understand what I mean. And another point of sympathy I really have with most of the Stormcloaks is because a lot of Stormcloaks are ex-Imperial soldiers. They are the ones that saw their own banner fell, let's say, because of, in their eyes, the cowardness of their own generals. And I think that sparked a lot of hate under the soldiers, and I just really understand why they would rebel. And I must say that we have arrived to the point that I think I have summed up all my personal problems and pros with all the factions. And I'm personally, let's just reveal it, I'm an Imperial, and you probably already knew that, because I have tried to really make the things I like about the Empire smaller and the small things I like about the Stormcloaks bigger, because I played both quest lines, and I must say that still I am more convinced by the Empire, because in my mind the Imperials have with Skyrim more of a chance against the Thalmor than Skyrim alone, and the Empire is, well, I think just more focused on running a country instead of letting themselves be led by a heavy cultural basis. The Empire mostly has the ideal of just letting everyone choose what to believe and what they want to do, and as a government they let the nation come first. And I think that's just one of the things I admire in the Imperials, that I don't know, it just made me choose for the Imperials. And you can think that's stupid, but I mean, I know there's enough Stormcloaks and there's enough Imperials, and my opinion really doesn't matter. And I hope that I've given you like my vision on this, and maybe you can agree with that, because I really think that it's logical for people to join the Stormcloaks. I mean, you start to love the country, you want to defend Skyrim once you play it, and when the Empire comes up, again, it always feels like a government that does not care about you. And, well, the Stormcloaks just do seem to care about you, so I really understand why you would go for it. And I really think that there are also claims that Ulfric is just doing it for power, and I don't necessarily think that has to be true, but I just don't think there's enough information on that to really be sure if it is or not. But please don't mistake me, this is all just my opinion on what's not a fact at all, and I understand that this video might have been hard to follow, and next video will be again in the normal format and not just me rambling about the Imperials and the Stormcloaks. But a lot of people requested this subject, and I cannot just ignore all those requests. And everyone I asked online that has added me on Steam or anything always said no, because you will get a lot of dislikes, and I think that in this format I won't, and if I will, then well then I will. But I think it is important that you guys know my stance, because that's literally the thing that gets requested under almost every video, and I mostly hide those comments because I've been generally avoiding the question, and I hope that I have answered it in a way that everybody can at least get behind me for my opinion, and that everyone can have their own opinion, because I really don't have a problem with the people that join the Stormcloaks. I mean, I understand why, and I've joined the Stormcloaks myself a couple of times, but I'm just a pro-Imperial guy and I can't help that. So next time, once again, will be a normal video with just me reading a script and just doing the lore stuff, but this was just a little opinion piece. And I understand it if you didn't like it, this more casual approach, but if you did like it, just thumbs up, and I see you the next time. I think I don't even do an outro for this. Next video will probably be up in a few days, and it will be, as far as I know, about Precious Curio, because that was the Elder Scrolls person that got the most votes on the last People of the Elder Scrolls video, or it will be a video about Elder Scrolls Arena, something about Elder Scrolls Arena. I'm also working on that, and what it exactly is about is still a secret, but one of the two. I don't know yet what one I like to do. That's it. See you next time.